A very warm welcome on your trades. This is Priyanka Uppal along with me Snehi. Snehi, clearly a rebound rally on the day of expiry, and most importantly, it was post the Fed forecast on the rate cuts. Nifty saw clearly 22,000. It was a broad-based recovery rally where small and mid-cap also participated, gaining more than 2% on the index. Bank Nifty also gained. There was a broad range of about 500 odd points for the Bank Nifty. Briefly touched 47,000 levels. However, it did pause at 20 DMA. We'll explore more about this also. But what a smart recovery in PSU space, metals, commodities. Top five gainers, if you talk on Nifty, were from these spaces only. In broader markets also, we saw spaces gaining like PSU, commodities, metals, PFC, REC, a lot many stocks from energy basket also. And of course, let's not forget that's the last day for the to be eligible for dividend was also one factor playing out here. But then the kind of sectors which saw the heaviest of the losses in the last 2 weeks also were the first ones to recover. Shobha, IRB, they were clearly the gainers in the mid-cap and the small-cap space. And of course, there was one more factor which was playing out was HSBC's India strategy, which talks about a lot of mid-cap opportunities also. And hence we saw stocks like even spaces like metals, just because of course the global factor was also playing in at the back. Jindal saw JSPL, Nalco, SAIL and Tata Steel also gaining, but did saw some brokerage notes also, and that's how there were movements.
Absolutely, lots of brokerage notes coming in, because we've been seeing a lot of movement recently, so brokerages have been coming out with their notes on a lot of companies then. But another big story of the day is that IRDAI has approved the Rashtriya Bima Sugam Nigam, which is, so now they've gone ahead and approved this according to sources. It's an ET now exclusive, and at the board made the regulator also approve draft norms on surrender charges. Remember, this Bima Sugam is an electronic marketplace for insurance, for the entire insurance sector. And well, as Priyanka mentioned, you had a positive note coming in from Investec on BSE, and that was the note that aided BSE today. That stock did brilliantly in today's trading session. Now, Investec has upgraded the stock to a buy rating this year, 38% upside potential. They're anticipating further market share gains for BSE with traction in BankX as well. Let's talk about the stock that made its debut on D Street today, and that is Crystal Integrated Services IPO. Now, surprisingly, that listed at an 11% premium when the street was just penciling a 4 or 5% uptick on that stock as well. And it made a positive start on the exchanges, opened at a price of 795 rupees versus the premium or versus the issue price of 715 rupees. And well, lastly, let's also talk about the biggest event that we did see coming in last night. Fed held the interest rate steady at 5.25 to 5.5%. And on the back of that, you had gold prices that hit a record high. They climbed to a record high today, up more than 2% as the US dollar and bond yields tick lower after the Federal Reserve maintained its projection of 3 rate cuts for this year. So, well, positive news coming in for our equity markets today, positive moves coming in on gold as well. But to understand if this positive sentiment is here to stay or if it is just, temporary or fickle, we are being joined by Kunal Bothra, who's our technical expert. Kunal, thanks so much for joining us and help us understand that the positivity that we did see in today's market, is it only on the back of strong, global cues coming in? Can we expect all of this to dissipate by tomorrow? Or do you think there is at least some amount of legs to this rally? Do you think this is here to stay?
Well, I think this is sustainable because there are a lot many data points which we need to look at. So, one over the last 1 month, there have been slew of corrections across mid caps and small caps. So, on an average, I think 30%, 35% has been the correction for many of the mid cap names, and the so-called froth into these mid cap stocks generally ebb off when you reach a 40% kind of a correction. So, which means majority of the froth from the mid caps and small caps seems to have been over in this last 3 weeks, 4 weeks of correction for many of these mid cap names. The second and the most important part is yesterday the put call ratios had gone back into a deep oversold territory of 0.5, 0.52 for the indices. That called in for a relief rally for the Nifty. Then you have the Fed outcome, which also has assuaged the market on the positive side. You have Dow, which is making made a fresh lifetime high for itself, and Nasdaq is just 200 points away from a fresh lifetime high. So when you look at all of this global context, the domestic scenario, I think we are placed up quite well. There was one very interesting data point which also transpired today. The India VIX on the verge of breaking below its 200-day moving average. The last time this happened was in July 2022, and from there in the next 3 to 6 months, the index managed to rise by almost 15 to 18%. So that also should augur very well for the indices going forward, and that's why I would believe that the move is sustainable.
All right, Kunal, very well put forward, because we did saw cool off on the VIX around about 7.5%. However, this started yesterday itself, but then yes, the confirmation comes today. So what are the stocks that you want to recommend here?
So I'll go with a mix of large caps and mid caps. So the first one is a BAN ITC. That's a stock which I've been recommending earlier. Also looks extremely attractive from current levels, anticipating a potential cup and handle pattern for the stock. So a breakout above 415 has been confirmed. So I would suggest a buy with a target of 435, and stop loss could be now trailed to 415, 412, 415 levels. And the second would be BAN SRF, a very strong chart across the multi-month time frame. So would suggest a buy with a potential target of 10% at least over the near term, 2850 as an upside target, stop loss at 2350.
Well, all right, Kunal, ITC and SRF on Kunal's radar. Thanks so much for joining us today. But with that, let's shift focus and talk about some stocks on the technical charts then. And for that, Shrishti is joining us in the studio. Shrishti, stellar day in trade for us. So I'm assuming both of your stocks are on the breakout side.
Well, yes, both the counters are on the breakout side, and one of the stocks that we wish to highlight on the technical front is the one that Kunal just highlighted and helped you with the stop losses as well as the target as well. But let's have a look at how the technical setup is looking like, because the breakout is clearly visible on the charts, because if you will see that 2500 was one of the resistance for a stock like SRF. We have seen great moves coming in on the chemical space, but when it comes to SRF, the stock was always facing that resistance and made a U-turn from the 2500 mark, but in today's trading session made a strong candle and managed to take over that key resistance level for itself. It was indeed supported by a longs on the derivative side, but the bounce was also from its 20-day moving average, because in the past you will see that once the stock made a U-turn above its 2200 levels, it was always taking a support at its 20-day moving average line, and now managing to cross above its key resistance level. So that's the first stock on the breakout side. Moving on to the next one quickly, and this one is Hindalco, because the metal pack was also shining bright today, and Hindalco has been one of the beaten down counters, one of the underperformers, and if you will see that the stock also managed to break above its key resistance of 540 odd levels. We know that how volatile these metal counters are, but the stock did manage to move above its 20-day moving average. It was also supported by a long build up, and hence we are highlighting this as the other breakout stocks. So these are the two counters on the breakout side. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Shrishti. Indeed, amongst the metal space, steel and aluminium, they were the smarter in sense of recovery as compared to other copper and zinc stocks, if you talk about. But let's go ahead and let's head to another important segment. Words from the wise. We are bullish on investment cycle, says Harish Krishnan, co-CIO and head equities Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC. He also believes that the first half of this decade is to be for investors. Let's listen to him, what he has to say.
We are positive on the investment cycle. I think that has moved quite meaningfully. If the last decade was that of consumption, we think that this decade, or at least the first half of this decade, is going to be more of investment. And therefore, sectors like, say, capital goods and engineering, sectors like auto and auto ancillaries have, we do think that, they've performed, but there still can be room for further performance. Cement is another sector where we think that, from a medium-term construct, there is a consolidation wave happening. The last is, of course, IT services. This has been a market performer in the last 12 odd months or so. But from a pre-COVID to a post-COVID, we do think that IT services have moved meaningfully. And we think that that trend can sustain. There's also, again, plays on the capital goods side and the engineering side, which are more derivative plays of the power capex that can come through. So that's the other area of opportunity that we are positive on.
All right, that's the word coming in from Harish Krishnan of ABSL Mutual Fund. But with that, let's slip into a short break on this edition of Your Trades. Viewers, will be right back. You stay tuned.
welcome back. You're watching your trades on 80 now, and now time for derivatives check. For the March expiry, what we saw the trend on Nifty was clearly short covering, whereas long built-up trend was seen on Bank Nifty, and the big relief coming in from India Wix, which cooled off to 7.5% to 12.5 levels. We did saw buying at the higher strikes, at the strikes of 22,100, 22,200. There was a call buying seen with a good open interest, and in fact, the support has also risen to levels like 21,800 and 900 because we saw the maximum of the put writing at these levels, and the major of the F&O traction was towards the PSU and metal side only. That's what the derivative has to say, Snehi.
Well, absolutely. That's the F&O setup for today, as well as the monthly expiry coming in next week as well. But with that, it's time to bring you the big story of the day, and well, on to an 80 now exclusive. IRDAI has improved the Bima Sugam according to sources. At the board meet, the regulator also approved draft norms on surrender charges, and my colleague Anurag Shah is joining in with all of these details. Anurag, take it away.
Series of decisions taken in IRDAI's last board meeting, and the most important one is related to the surrender value for life insurance companies. As per our sources, the final rules of surrender value are relaxed as compared to the proposed draft of December 2023. So, surrender value will be linked to the continuation of a policy. So, if a policy is continued for less number of years, then surrender value will be less. And if policy is continued for more number of years, then surrender value will be more. So, this is a relief for life insurance companies. So, life insurance companies were seeking some sort of relaxation in proposed draft. So, good news for life insurance companies. Another decision taken in board meeting is related to the Bima Sugam platform. So, IRDAI board has approved Bima Sugam platform, and it will be named as Rashtriya Bima Sugam Nigam Limited, a one-point platform for all insurance needs, Amazon of insurance. New corporate governance rules also been cleared in IRDAI's board meeting. So, corporate governance rules will be applicable for insurance companies for their compliance needs. So, these are the decisions taken in IRDAI's board meeting, and the final details of decision will be published by IRDAI by this weekend or starting of the next week.
All right, that's quite a significant news coming in from the board meet, but then we did try to capture some reactions from corporates also. Bima Sugam will create a level playing field and benefit customers. This is what Nilesh Kambali, CFO, Star Health and Allied Insurance, has to say. Let's listen to him, what he said briefly.
When it comes to Bima Sugam, it's an ecosystem which the regulator is trying to create. It will have service as well as sales infrastructure, and it will be available to all the parties, be it agents, brokers, aggregators. So it's a welcome move to ensure that the customer has a free choice in terms of selection of products. When it comes to service as well, there'll be various integrations with KYC systems, hospitals. So it will be a single largest platform to ensure that all the information related to the customers, the policy details are all available. We believe it's an ecosystem, and there'll be a play for everyone on this platform. It will ensure affordability of the products as well, wherever there will be a direct link. So it's a good from a customer standpoint, a service standpoint, as well as insurance company standpoint. It is in the initial stage, this concept, all the insurance companies are coming together to ensure what will be the best use cases to go live with, both on the sales as well as service front. There'll be definitely some benefits coming on to the customers. India continues to be an underpenetrated market, around 40 crore missing middle where the insurance is not available. Insurance is a law of large numbers. As we continue to penetrate the market, we can provide more and more affordable products. That's the whole thought process of the regulator and the insurance industry.
All right, that's the word coming in from the management of Star Health. But let me take it across to my colleague Gaurav, who's standing by with a list of all the stocks that were big buzzers in today's trading session. Gaurav, hi, over to you.
Well, yes, BSE was one stock which was definitely in focus today because Investec recently upgraded the rating for the stock to buy and a target price of 2,800 rupees. Now they believe that market share of BSE can still gain from here on, and on the back of this news, we saw the stock was also up almost 10% in today's trade. Let's also talk about Amber Enterprise because we recently saw that the company acquired the company called Resojet for 35 crore rupees, and with this they will now start manufacturing of automatic washing machines and its components. And on the back of this news, we saw the stock was up almost 4.5% 1.5% in today's trade. Let's also talk about Lloyd Metals because the company's management has now approved the QIP of 5,000 crore rupees, and the speciality of the QIP is that they will make sure that the promoter stake is not diluted much, and at the same time they will issue QIP with a preference to promoters or existing shareholders, and at the same time some strategic investors. And on back of this, we saw the stock was up almost 2% in today's trade. Let's also talk about DCB Bank because the management recently approved the appointment of Mr. Praveen Kutty as additional director as well as MD and CEO for the bank for the next 3 years. Now, if we look at Praveen Kutty's journey, he has been with the bank for the last 16 years, and on back of this news, we saw the stock was up almost 2% in today's trade. And lastly, let's also talk about Deepak Nitrate because the company's subsidiary announced a commencement of a manufacturing facility in Dahej for manufacturing of benzo trifluoride, which is one type of a chemical. And at the same time, we also saw that company recently commenced an operation in another manufacturing unit in Vadodara. And on back of this news, we saw the stock was up almost 1.5% in today's trade. So all in all, we will definitely keep an eye on all these stocks in tomorrow's trade as well.
All right, thanks very much, Gaurav, for the entire list of the stocks which are buzzing in the trade today. Well, that's all in this edition of Your Trades. Stay tuned to ET Now. Thanks for watching.